It's not exactly a mystery to anyone that has ever played a Borderlands game that the game has a lot of guns. Throughout the history of the franchise, artists, designers, programmers, and animators have had a field day creating wild variations of weaponry using the engine's procedurally generated system that carefully combines different parts, assets, and design attributes together to create unique loot that scales upward as you progress through the game. There's a pretty interesting secret to that sauce, and if you're interested, I'm going to tell you how that sauce is made. Well, for audio anyway. You see, on all the previous Borderlands titles, we had the usual manufacturers: Jacobs shotguns, Maliwan SMGs, Dahl assault rifles, etc. And all those different guns utilized a modular system that slapped together all different parts that gave you unique item drops you found scattered across Pandora. But the audio in the games didn't behave the same way as the art and the design at all. Not even close, actually. You see, if you picked up a Jacobs pistol, it just sounded like a Jacobs pistol. No matter what parts, common or rare, each gun type in the game got about 15 individual sounds assigned to it. There were 5 randomized firing sounds for when you immediately pulled the trigger, 5 different sounds that followed the initial firing sound, and 5 variations of tails. Collectively, we shipped about 350 total gun sounds on Borderlands 2, and that number includes the reload sounds. But on Borderlands 3, we shipped about 5,500 individual gunshot sounds and reloads. So wait, how did that happen? Well, the easy answer might be, we just have more memory. Borderlands 1 and 2 were shipped on Xbox 360 and PS3. We just didn't have the memory budget to pull that off. But more than just memory, we completely changed the way we design and implement our gun audio. And thanks to the creative superpowers of lead sound designer Brian Fieser and the sheer technical prowess of audio programmer Julian Peterson, we were able to build a robust modular weapon audio system for the guns. The same part system that design and art had been using for years, we were now able to piggyback on, and thus the experimentation began. Okay, maybe that didn't make it into the final game. I know some of you are disappointed. I'm going to show you how I personally approached my work for this system using the Maliwan sniper rifles I sound designed. The design philosophy behind Maliwan weapons are their distinct laser and plasma-based projectiles that often come with elemental attributes. They're the most futuristic and sci-fi out of all the Borderlands guns, so they need something much different than the guns that heavily rely on organic gun source. Let's take a closer look by opening the weapon debug screen. When we want to spawn a specific type of weapon and its rarity, this is where we go to get it done quick. I'll start by navigating the menus and selecting an uncommon Maliwan sniper rifle. Then the next screen I'm taken to will show me every available part for this weapon. As you can see, there's quite a bit here. Thanks to the new weapon system, we are finally able to put individual gun firing sounds on any of these parts. You're probably thinking, this is insanely overwhelming, and why on earth would you want to do this? You guys are psychos. There's just so many parts here. How could putting a sound on each individual part possibly sound good? Well, you'd be right to assume it probably wouldn't sound good, and we didn't actually put a sound on each part. But we did put them on a lot of parts that we felt like mattered the most. For example, in this row in the Weapon Builder debug tool, you can see the Maliwan snipers have 3 different types of barrel. Each barrel has 3 corresponding barrel mod attachments that alter the gun's appearance and attributes. The barrels change the type of projectile the Maliwans fire, while the mods typically change things like accuracy, reload speed, and damage. The barrel mods have more distinct characteristics that give the gun a more signature profile. Inside of Wise, we can see the hierarchy of different switch containers that house all the various audio for the parts. Whenever the gun firing event gets triggered engine side, our setup in Wise flips all the necessary switches so that only the proper sounds are chosen. So now that you know the gist of how the system works, let's head over to Nuendo, and I'll show you how my sound design process for a few of these parts works. I've been using the VST Kick 2 a lot over the past couple years because sometimes it's just fun to use kick drums as a sublayer inside of impacts. I also like this little trick to create quick lasers. Here's what one of the 808 kick drum templates sounds like raw. Yeah, definitely very reminiscent of an 808. So since Kick 2 allows you to shape the envelopes, watch what happens to the sound as I spike the second point on the graph, curving it upward. Now as I elongate and curve the third point, you'll start to hear that distinctive pew pew sound emerge. Pretty simple technique. I like simple techniques. But we can't use this kind of content by itself because it's sounding way too much just like a raw synthesizer. I did find, though, that using this technique helped me create suitable layers. I've also been playing around a lot in Serum the past few years, and I've been creating a small library of custom laser patches for helping me build layers for sci-fi weapons. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit vulnerable here. Here's the first laser patch I ever saved in Serum. Yeah, it sounds corny as hell, but It was a start, and I derived many children from this patch, and by the time we hit several variations in, you can hear that they have a little bit more character. I also created more plasma burst style patches. These patches are best played in the lower octave on the piano roll to give them a more full rounded out transient. So after lots of layering and experimentation using the source from Kick 2, Serum, and some organic gunshots, here are some of the examples of what I came up with to use as my sounds for barrel mod parts. It took me a while to get to this point, but combining some choice layers from Kick 2, Serum, and layering them with distortion and organic source, it started to have the sound that I wanted. Something heavily synth designed, but not so synthy that it becomes completely disconnected from the environment when listening to it back in the game. Just to expedite this video up a little bit, here's a quick look at the rest of the sounds I had to make for the Maliwan sniper rifles. These all got built out over the course of a couple weeks and hooked onto the various gun parts like ornaments on a Christmas tree. Now let's spawn some guns with the weapon debug tool. I'll write up on the screen the individual audio files associated with each gun. Variety has increased a ton since Borderlands 2, and I've only scratched the surface here. If you're interested in an even deeper dive of this, keep your eyes peeled for our GDC talk coming up in 2020. The man behind the system itself, Brian Fieser, will be giving a really interesting talk about how all of this works. Also, as a little challenge, if you ever have two of the same type of gun in your backpack while playing through Borderlands 3, swap them out and take notice of how they might sound different from one another.